You want to change your experience, challenge your mindset.
Behind the person are the people.
Everyone's got to have something on the line. It's always easier to catch up than it is to raise the bar.
Regardless of how talented you are, if you want to take something to the next level, it takes a team.
You've got to operate in the darkness, knowing you're lighting the path for everyone else. Who defines the limit? And what if we were to push that edge?
They knew their creative differentiator would be quality, not quantity. I've seen mindset change everything.
What does great teamwork take?
So instead, the power of teamwork comes from a belief. It comes from a mindset. We can't get satisfied by the breakthroughs. We can celebrate them. We should celebrate them, but we can't be satisfied by the limits. Because in order for teamwork to be at its highest potential, everyone's got to have something on the line. You have to. Otherwise, you're only partway in. At the end of the day, you're going to need to trust those around you. To fully trust. This is about us. And you can count on me.
Want to be truly inspired? Look beyond the one and see the unbelievable talent of the team. We know the great stories, the great heroes, the great legends. What's behind it all? It's teamwork.
What this lesson means for teams, the ones that truly accept it. Everything changes. Because here's the deal. Things always go great for a team until they don't. And then what? What happens in that moment? When the team is breaking down, people are pulling apart, what happens then? Because that's the decision point. That's when teams decide, become great or stay average. You see, most teams don't realize it, that hard defines great. They've got to grab hold of hard. They were waiting for hard because there's almost no other way through to greatness. Hard lets you know the opportunity is opening. Here's the catch. The hard I'm talking about, the hard that typically gets in the way, it's not championship hard. No, everybody wants that. It's character hard. The willingness to push through all the tough lessons along the way. For teams, it's not just the test of talent. It's the test of teammates. Because before teams are great, before they are legendary, the teammates needed to decide. Chicago Bulls, knocked out of the playoffs by the same team 3 times, ready to explode. Then unbelievable happened.
And the Chicago Bulls have won their first ever NBA championship.
The Bulls have learned their lessons well. They've grown up.
Steve Jobs and Apple, torn apart, emotions at their height, until they figured it out.
In hindsight, it was a terrible mistake for Steve to be pushed out.
This is what makes us great. Man on the moon, no precedent, no rule book, nothing easy about the years of quiet work before the headlines were written. Long before success, teammates are tested. That's when they had to decide. Something starts the fire. Great teams always have potential, but then something happens. Everything comes to a head. They didn't win the battle. They didn't reach their goals. The true challenge becomes real. You know, we all think we're signing up for the championship. The push to reach the goal that everyone is watching, everyone's cheering for. We get that part. We think that's the test. And of course it becomes the final exam, but the first test is always earlier.
Steve Jobs.
That was the decision point. Things get hard for teammates. How do we respond? Back against the wall, emotions boiling up, second guessing begins. We think it's just effort, desire, commitment to reach our goals. All that matters. We know that's coming. But what about the trust after that breaks down? What about the belief after the momentum's been lost? What about the dynamics after the split has started? Of course you were signing up for success. Who isn't? But did you know you were signing up for the messy part that comes first? That's why the teams that are willing to take on that part, that accept it, that use it, That's why they win. So what do? You now know the test. And the test has likely arrived. Hard defines greatness. And the teammates will decide.
The Oilers are a perfect 4-0.
One more item for you when you get a chance. We'd like it to stir up your cryo tanks.
How good can a team be? Seriously, how powerful is teamwork? Great teamwork. I mean, really ask that question. Who defines the limit? And what if we were to push that edge? Stop to think about this for a moment and realize that every team that accomplished the untouchable, every team that got out there, every team that had done what had never been done before, they all had to break through. They all had to understand that there was this edge. And then they had to challenge the edge. And then they had to break through that invisible line. They all had to do it.
Through that group of incredibly talented people, bumping up against each other, having arguments, having fights sometimes, making some noise, and working together, they polish each other. And they polish the ideas, and what comes out are these really beautiful stones. Yeah.
There's no other way to get through other than challenging your fears. Because in order for teamwork to be at its highest potential, everyone's got to have something on the line. You have to. Otherwise, you're only partway in. At the end of the day, you're going to need to trust those around you. To fully trust. This is about us. And you can count on me. I think about New Zealand, this country with under 5 million people. And they have the best rugby team in the world. The All Blacks. Consistently the best in the world. Or the Apollo mission. A group of people saying, we hear you. We've got you. And all of our talents are on the line to get you home. That's teamwork. Think about the Beatles. All of that music that we know of theirs, all of it, was made in about 8 years. Just 8 years. They were that incredible as a team. Great teams, I mean, they're not about individuals melting into the team. That's the mistake. People hear about the power of teamwork, and they think it's about losing yourself to the singular goal. They think it's about fully giving in to something bigger than you. You don't lose yourself. Great teammates, they don't lose themselves. They stand up. They say, I'm here. They choose to be in, and they choose to play their unique part. That's how it works. So then what's the breakthrough? What did those teams see to unlock the full power of teamwork? You know, that's the hard part. You can't see the edge. You actually don't know where it is until you cross over and look back and see where it was. That's why it's always easier. I mean, it's always easier to catch up than it is to raise the bar. Because the team that broke through, they marked the line. And now everyone else, they just need to get over that mark. The Patriots, Belichick, Brady, I mean, what they've been doing is so unbelievable because they keep raising the bar. They keep nudging it higher. So even if people catch up, it's too late. You know, Steve Jobs and Apple.
For the first time ever, I'd like to let Macintosh speak for itself.
They were operating in this abyss. I mean, they were out there in this vast unknown. So instead of breaking through, instead of seeing the line, you have to forget the line. It's just another limit. The marker in great teams is never external. Because you're out in this unknown. You're out in this unmapped territory. So instead, the power of teamwork comes from a belief. It comes from a mindset. We can't get satisfied by the breakthroughs. We can celebrate them. We should celebrate them, but we can't be satisfied by the limits. That's what humbles me the most about great teams. That's what humbles me the most about the power of teamwork. Because it's almost like you've got to operate in the darkness, knowing you're lighting the path for everyone else, and still heading out there, still pushing that edge. That's how to unlock the power of teamwork.
To copy at the point. And on the board, take There's the presentation to Wayne Gretzky, the young Edmonton captain.
You want to tell me that circumstance matters more than mindset. That may be your perspective. But I'm telling you, I've seen the opposite. I've seen mindset change everything. I've seen teams go from being broken to winning championships. Same team, same talent, different mindset. Think about this. In May 1954, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. And in the sports world, it was a huge milestone. Here's the backstory. Go back to 1942. During World War II, the record for running the mile stood at 4 minutes and 6 seconds. Then over the next 3 years, during the war, the record got whittled down to 4:01. That's where it stayed for 9 years. No one could break 4 minutes. Performance in that distance was stuck. Then, through incredible teamwork, Bannister breaks 4 minutes. Did it by sticking to the pace of one teammate for the first 2 legs?
My legs seemed to meet no resistance at all, almost as if impelled by an unknown force. We seemed to be going so slowly.
And then another teammate for the 3rd leg.
I was barely aware of the fact that Chris Chataway was now going into the lead.
Before going on his own and breaking the record in the final leg. It was an incredible achievement.
A 4-minute mile was possible. Somehow, to do it, I had to run the last lap in 59 seconds. Chataway led round the next bend, and then I pounced past him at the beginning of the back straight, 300 yards from the finish. I had a moment of mixed joy and anguish when my mind took over. It raced well ahead of my body and drew me compellingly forward. I felt that the moment of a lifetime had come. The faint line of the finishing tape stood ahead as a haven of peace after the struggle. I leapt at the tape, like a man taking his last spring to save himself from the chasm that threatens to engulf him. My effort was over, and I collapsed almost unconscious with an arm on either side of me.
But here's the crazy part. A month later, the first woman, Diane Leather, breaks 5 minutes. A few weeks after that, the second guy, John Landy, runs under 4 minutes as well.
We have unofficially here 3:58.9.
And within a year of Roger doing it the first time, 5 men had run the mile in under 4 minutes. So what changed? Their mindset. Now that Roger had reached the mark, everyone else knew it was possible. Impossible became possible. Because it's always harder to raise the bar than to catch up to someone else. And the limitation is your mindset. So what is your team's 4-minute barrier? What is the limitation that makes you feel like you're stuck? Ask the question. How are you getting in your own way? Or better yet, how can you be the first to raise the bar? So often we feel the problem is a lack of resources, a lack of ability, a lack of communication. At the same time, we're stuck on old ideas, old reasons why something won't work, stuck on the fear of sharing new thoughts, stuck on the hard work it would take to fix the problem. You want to change your experience, challenge your mindset.
In 1986, Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple and bought a small company for $5 million. That company was Pixar. And he stayed Pixar's CEO until 2006. During that time, Steve Jobs taught us valuable lessons about the difference between good teamwork and bad teamwork. You see, in 2000, Pixar was moving offices, and they had plans to build 3 separate offices, one for computer scientists, one for animators, and one for Pixar executives. When Jobs learned about the plans, he scrapped it immediately. Why? Because he knew the entire Pixar team needed to be together, to have one big space, and a meeting place right in the middle. Because he knew that great teamwork requires connection. See, every team's got to figure this out at some point. This is how teamwork goes. That everything goes great until it doesn't. And then what? When things get hard, you're losing the championship game, the business stops making money, your marriage is strained. That's the true test. Because every team reaches that moment and they never expect to. So the difference between good teamwork and bad teamwork is defined not when things are easy, but when things get hard. That's when great teamwork comes down to these 3 things. First, during the tough times, do you drift apart or stay connected? It's a critical distinction. Steve Jobs knew how important that fork in the road can become for a team. He knew there'd be tough times. So his answer? We stay together. We build our office to always be connected. Good times or bad times, we're going to keep running into each other. We're going to keep figuring this out. The Chicago Bulls dynasty lost many times before they finally won. The difference was they stuck together during the bad times. They didn't drift apart. They fixed the problems because they didn't run from the problems. FC Lyon, the amazing women's football team, perhaps the most successful team in the world right now, needed to break through before they went on to win 7 titles in 10 years. When things get hard, grow together. The second key between good teamwork and bad teamwork is trust. For years, Google ran some internal research called Project Aristotle, which was Google's deep data dive into what makes highly effective teams. And the 2 top determinants were feeling safe on the team and feeling like others were dependable. It was trust. Trust that my voice will be heard, that it'll be valued, it'll be appreciated, and at the end of the day, we'll get our work done. Teams aren't always the happiest groups. They don't always make life easier. In fact, oftentimes they make it harder. But when push comes to shove, a good team trusts each other, and everyone has a voice. Think about the best leader you ever worked for. Their bar height was high. Work wasn't easy, but it was fulfilling. You had a role. Others had a role too, and at the end of the day, everyone could trust each other. And that trust is so vital because of the third key between good teamwork and bad teamwork, that teams plateau before they peak. The foundational research into teams was really clear on this point. People like Bruce Tuckman and Timothy Briggs back in the 1960s and 70s figured this out. Teams have a natural plateau. They get together, they start figuring things out, then their performance starts to normalize and level. And not at the level they could be capable of, but at a natural threshold. And to reach their peak performance, in order to break through that threshold, teams need some kind of leadership to push the bar up. That's a big part why leadership matters. Now, that leadership can come in lots of different forms: a motivational breakthrough, a moment where people rally, agitating people out of autopilot, something like that. But oftentimes that leadership doesn't come without some pain, without some discomfort. And if you don't trust each other, when you try to break out of that plateau, you simply break apart. Think about the years of hard work before the success arrived. That's the difference between hitting the plateau and reaching the peak. It takes the foundation of trust, then the leadership to push it. Think about Sheryl Sandberg at Facebook, or think about what Steve Jobs brought back to Apple when he rejoined, that push from plateau to peak. It's the fundamental law of teams, that everything goes well until it doesn't. And then what? That's when bad teams unravel and good teams rally. So don't get caught off guard. You know that these teamwork challenges are coming, whether you're facing them now or not. So build a structure to stick together. Build trust at every moment, even when you don't think it matters. And foster leadership that will push you from a plateau to the peak. That's good teamwork.